Hello, my name is Maria Morfin, and I want to welcome you to my triangulated analysis presentation. In this triangulated analysis, I will analyze a 5th grade ELA self-created curriculum through 3 lenses: the learning theories that support this program, the best practices within the program, and I will also look closely at how the standards are supported by the program. To narrow my focus and analysis, I will only be analyzing one strand of the reading program, which is going to be reading comprehension. In this section, I will discuss the learning theories that live within the program. In my curriculum, there's evidence of practices and activities that align to behaviorist, constructivist, and social constructivism learning theories. In Lenses of Reading, Tracy and Moore describe a behaviorist theory as a theoretical perspective of learning that focuses on observable changes in behavior that result from a stimulus. Within the context of literacy, this means that behaviorist theories support the idea of breaking down reading into a set of isolated skills that can be targeted through repeated practice until the student masters the skills. In the curriculum, I noticed that there are 2 behaviorist practices that stand out. One, the teaching of vocabulary using Mersano's 6 steps to vocabulary instructions, and 2, the use of read-alouds of informational and narrative text to teach reading skills in isolation. First, the goal of Mersano's 6 steps to vocabulary instruction is to help students learn and internalize new words. The program attempts to achieve this by breaking down the instruction of new vocabulary words into 6 steps. And this breaking down of a skill into steps very much aligns with behaviorist theories. First, teachers provide students with a description of the word, then students restate the description in their own words. In step 3, students create an illustration that represents the meaning of a word. Next, students engage with the word by doing something like thinking about its synonyms and antonyms. Afterwards, students describe the vocabulary word with one another. The last step asks that students engage with the word through vocabulary games to help students internalize the word or the meaning of the word. Another example of a behaviorist practice within this curriculum happens during read-alouds. The teacher focuses the read-aloud on reading skills students prove to have a difficult time on the last or most recent skills assessment. The goal of doing this is to give students opportunity for repeated practice so that students can master the reading skills. Students practice the skill throughout the read-aloud. At the end of the read-aloud, students take an exit ticket to demonstrate their mastery. This very much aligns with the operant theory, in which a goal is set for an observable change and steps are created to help achieve the observable change. In the curriculum, there's also evidence of constructivist learning theories. Morrow and Tracy define constructivism as a theory of learning that emphasizes the active construction of knowledge by individuals through the integration of existing knowledge and new knowledge. Unlike behaviorism, constructivism suggests that students learn and create meaning from a text through learning experiences. In the program, there are a few examples of constructivist theories. For example, there is metacognition. The thinking about one's own thinking is evident during read-alouds. The teacher models her metacognition as she uses reading skills, and students mimic this behavior during the guided practice. Next, there's also evidence of schema theory, another constructivist theory. Within the program, this theory argues that students build on their comprehension of a text using and building on their prior knowledge. In this program, there is evidence of pre-reading activities that help activate and build on prior knowledge. There's also evidence of inquiry learning, another constructivist theory. This theory argues that students learn best not through competition, but rather through collaboration. In the program, there's evidence of this theory through the practice of Socratic seminars. Students discuss and collaborate to try to find answers to some of the essential questions within the unit. Lastly, within the program, there's also evidence of a social learning perspective. Within the context of literacy, social learning perspectives focus on the impact that social interactions have on students' reading development. The curriculum provides students time and opportunities to practice reading texts within their zone of proximal development. Social constructivism, a social learning perspective, is based on the idea that students' learning is positively influenced when they are given tasks within their level. Oops. To summarize this section, within the program, there's evidence of behaviorist theories that focus on the breaking down of reading skills and repeated practice until mastery is achieved, like is done with vocabulary instruction. There's also evidence of constructivist theories, such as schemas theory, as is seen with the practice of pre-reading activities. And there's also evidence of social constructivism within the program, as is seen with the use of level text. Therefore, I would say that this program is composed of a mix of theoretical learning theories as opposed to just having one overarching learning theory. In this next section, I will discuss whether or not the program is based on evidence-based best practices. In their book Best Practices in Literacy Instruction, Gambrill and Morrow describe evidence-based best practices as instructional practices that have a record of success in improving reading achievement and that is both trustworthy and valid. Within this program, there is evidence of best practices. For example, there is evidence of best practices in teaching comprehension strategies in the curriculum. The teacher offers students multiple opportunities to practice comprehension strategies for narrative and informational texts. The teacher also explicitly models the use of reading strategies. Then students practice the reading strategies with teacher guidance, peer support, and sometimes independently. By providing students with time to practice the reading strategies with scaffolded support, the teacher helps students internalize the reading strategies so that students can then use the reading strategies independently. Another piece of evidence, another evidence of a best practice in this curriculum is that it helps develop students' comprehension through student discussions. Students have opportunity to discuss their thinking and interpretation of a text with peers through think pair shares and group discussions. Through peer discussion, students' metacognition becomes alive as they share their interpretation of a text and thinking process. Another example of a best practice is the use of visuals like thinking maps. Thinking maps are used to improve comprehension. When reading informational text, students complete a thinking map to analyze the text for text structures. When reading literature, students complete thinking maps at the end of a novel to help them summarize the important events of a story. Students have the flexibility of both using words and illustrations to summarize. Like in any instructional program or curriculum, this program has strengths but also has areas of growth. The areas of growth are around the practice of using reading strategies in isolation and the lack of authentic assessments throughout the unit. There are a couple of places within the program when students practice reading strategies in isolation. For example, at the end of a short story or novel, students write a summary. While summarizing is a reading strategy that helps promote reading comprehension, when done in isolation, it is not a best practice. A best practice for teaching reading comprehension strategies requires that multiple reading strategies are taught so as to emulate an authentic reading comprehension experience for students. A teacher using this program may want to make adjustments to activities that involve the practice of reading strategies in isolation by weaving in the practice of other reading strategies. Next, while students do read authentic texts, students do not read for authentic purposes. When a student reads for an authentic purpose, it means they read with the intention of reading for a real-life purpose, for a real-life outcome. When students read novels and articles, students have opportunities to practice their reading strategies to comprehend the text. In this curriculum, text comprehension is important so that students can show mastery on skills-based lessons that align to the end-of-year state exam. In fact, about 30% of the instructional minutes in 1 week are spent on reading comprehension strategies, while 70% of the time is spent on skills-based lessons. It is important that students read for authentic purposes because, as Gambrill and Morrow explain, research shows that students' comprehension development is accelerated when they are asked to read authentic text for authentic purposes during instruction. One way a teacher can mitigate this problem is by incorporating authentic reading assessments throughout the unit, so that the teacher has data points about how students are progressing towards mastery of standards while simultaneously providing students an opportunity to practice using the reading strategies. In summary, this program uses best practices but also has areas of growth. Some of the best practices that live in this program are the multiple opportunities students have to engage with reading strategies, students engage in discussions to share their thinking, and the use of visuals to help students organize their thinking. The practices in this program can also be improved by avoiding the practice of reading strategies in isolation or using reading strategies in isolation, and by incorporating more authentic assessments that allow students to practice their reading strategies while simultaneously providing the teacher with data about student mastery. In this section, I will be analyzing the program through the lens of the standards. This program is aligned to the Common Core state standards. A teacher using this program must keep in mind that the program was designed by a teacher and she used her interpretation of the standards to create the program. For this reason, there are sections in the program that are more closely aligned to the Common Core standards than others. There are two areas of strengths in this program in terms of the standards. First, the program does a good job of grouping standards that build off of each other. For example, within one mini unit, RL 5.5 and RL 5.2 are covered. RL 5.5 demands that students be able to identify the elements of plot in a story. RL 5.2 demands that students be able to infer theme of a story. Before students are able to infer a theme of a story, they need to understand the parts of a story and the story itself. Another area of strength in this program in terms of its standards is that the standards are taught at multiple depths of knowledge. For example, RL 5.2 needs to be taught at a DOK 2 and 3. In this program, students first engage with the standard by identifying the theme of the story, which would match right about a DOK 2, and then students construct their own theme and identify their own evidence, which would match at a level of a DOK 3. An area of growth for this program in terms of the standards is that a few standards are not taught in their entirety. For example, RL 5.2 demands that students be able to do two things. The first part of the standard asks students to infer a theme, like previously described. The second part is related to summarizing. Students need to be able to write a summary and identify details that belong in the summary. In this unit, there's only evidence of teaching of the first part of the standard, but not the second part. A teacher using this program should take time to carefully look through all of the standards and internalize their parts. Then the teacher should review the scope and sequence to ensure that all standards are taught in their entirety at some point during the school year. Another area of growth for this program in terms of its standards is that students need more practice using a variety of reading strategies to comprehend the text. The practice of reading strategies will set up students for success in mastering the Common Core standards, because reading strategies are transferable from text to text. In order for the implementation of the Common Core standards to be successful, a teacher using this program should consider focusing more instructional minutes on the teaching of practicing of reading strategies as opposed to skill-based instruction. In summary, this self-created program is supported by multiple learning theories, like behaviorist theories, constructivism, and social constructivism. There's no one overarching learning theory that supports this program. The program includes a lot of evidence-based practices like the use of discussions and visuals, but there's room for improvement. The program can be improved by focusing on teaching and using multiple reading strategies at once and spending more time reading for a text for authentic purposes. Lastly, the program does support the Common Core standards. The program nicely groups standards that build off of each other, and standards are taught at increasing levels of depth of knowledge. The program can do a better job of aligning to all standards by addressing all parts of the standard within the program, and by improving best practices in order to better support the implementation of the Common Core standards. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you learned a whole lot.